I found out my husband owns a secret apartment. When my friend and I went there, we were left in pure shock. My husband, Adam, took our son and his brother on a trip to visit their mom. They were excited to spend some time together, and I was glad they could have this opportunity. While they were away, I decided to take advantage of the quiet house and tackle some cleaning in the den. I figured I could get a lot done without any distractions. As I was tidying up, an email suddenly popped up on Adam's iPad, which was sitting on the coffee table. I glanced at the screen and noticed it was from an apartment complex. My curiosity got the better of me, so I took a closer look. The email mentioned something about shutting down the hot water for repairs. What really caught my attention was that it was addressed to Adam by his name. Now, I was puzzled. We own our house, and we haven't rented a place in over 10 years. Why on earth would an apartment complex be sending him an email? It felt really strange and suspicious. I began to feel a sense of unease about the whole situation. Since Adam was in upstate New York, I knew he wouldn't have great cell service. I wanted to share this odd email with him, so I tried to send him a picture of it. I thought that would make it easier for him to see what I was talking about. Unfortunately, the picture wouldn't go through, and that just added to my frustration. After some time, I finally managed to get a hold of him, but the connection was terrible. I could barely hear his voice over the static and dropouts. I tried to explain the email to him, telling him how strange it was and how worried it made me feel. He listened for a moment, and then he simply replied, "Must be a mistake. They got the wrong email." I couldn't believe it. It seemed too simple of an explanation to me. If it was really just a mistake, how could they have his full name spelled correctly? It felt like there was more to it than just a simple error. I was left with an uneasy feeling in my stomach, wondering if there was something deeper going on. The whole situation didn't add up, and I couldn't shake the worry that something was off. There were no other emails from this sender in Adam's inbox, which I found unusual. He is very particular about keeping his inbox tidy and often deletes messages he doesn't need. This email didn't even include a unit number, which made it even more puzzling since the apartment complex it was from was only about 15 minutes away from our home. I didn't have any real reason to mistrust Adam. We had been happily married for 6 years, and we had 2 wonderful kids, a daughter and a son. I loved him deeply and believed in our relationship completely. Still, this email felt off, and it started to make me feel anxious. I tried to piece everything together while also battling my own emotions. I found myself replaying our interactions from the last few months in my mind, searching for any signs I might have missed that could explain why I felt this way. Adam had always been very attentive and caring, but I had noticed some small changes in him lately. It seemed like he preferred spending time with the boys instead of enjoying family time together. He also often came up with excuses to be out of the house more than usual, which left me feeling uneasy. The feelings of paranoia began to gnaw at me, and I couldn't shake them. I kept asking myself if I was being irrational or if there was something I should be worried about. I wasn't quite ready to face the conclusions my mind was drawing. I wanted to trust him completely, but the strange email and these little changes in his behavior made it difficult to quiet my anxious thoughts. So, feeling really worried and confused, I decided to call my best friend. She was immediately supportive and wanted to help me figure this out. Without hesitation, she called the emergency maintenance number for the apartment complex. She pretended to be a delivery driver and managed to get the apartment number where the email was sent from. I was both anxious and hopeful. After we got the information, we drove over to the apartment complex. My heart was racing the whole time. When we finally arrived, we walked up to the door and knocked. I was so nervous, and when the door opened, I couldn't hold back my tears. Standing there was a young woman, probably around 25 years old, looking at us with a confused expression. She asked what we needed. We introduced ourselves as delivery workers with a package for Adam and politely asked her when he would be home. As we were talking, 2 small children, who looked about 5 years old, suddenly ran up to the door. They stopped and stared at us, their eyes wide with curiosity. While we were trying to gather more information, I could hear at least 3 other women talking inside the apartment. The woman who had opened the door looked scared, and suddenly, she slammed the door shut. I felt a rush of panic. We knocked again, hoping she would reconsider, but the door remained closed. Then, I heard her voice from inside saying she would call the police if we didn't leave. That made my heart sink. I felt helpless and confused, standing there outside the door, unsure of what to do next. Everything was happening so fast, and I didn't know how we had ended up in this situation. Stacy looked at me with wide eyes, clearly shocked. Her voice was trembling as she asked, "Jennifer, what the hell was that? Who are these women? And those kids?" I quickly wiped my tears, trying to regain my composure and steady my voice. "I don't know, Stacy. This This is insane. How could Adam do this? We've been married for 6 years. We have kids. What is going on? Stacy took a deep breath and said, "You should call a lawyer." Her suggestion hit me hard, because I didn't want to believe that Adam had done anything wrong. It felt too painful to even consider. Sensing my struggle, Stacy put a comforting hand on my shoulder. "We need to figure this out. This can't be real. Maybe there's some explanation for all of this. But what kind of explanation makes sense?" I shot back, my frustration and hurt blending in my voice. "Did you see how that woman reacted? She looked terrified. And those kids. They just stood there staring at us. It's all so weird." Stacy hesitated for a moment before asking, "Do you think he's living a double life?" I could hear the fear in her voice, and it made my heart sink even more. "I don't know what to think," I admitted, my voice cracking with emotion. I trusted him completely. I never doubted him for a second. And now, with this? I feel like my whole world is falling apart. Tears started to well up in my eyes again as I thought about everything. The weight of the situation pressed down on me, and I felt lost, unable to grasp the reality of what was happening. Stacy nodded, her expression serious. "We need to talk to him. We need to confront him. You deserve to know the truth about all of this." "But how are we going to do that? He's upstate, and every time I try to reach him on the phone, it's a struggle," I said, feeling completely helpless in the situation. "Then we go to him," Stacy said firmly, her determination shining through. "We'll drive up there. You need answers, Jennifer. We'll figure it out together." Her strong resolve gave me a small sense of comfort. I took a deep breath, wiped away my tears, and nodded. "Okay. Let's go," I agreed, feeling a little more hopeful. I can't just sit here and do nothing while I'm feeling this way. Once we arrived at the place where Adam was staying, I found him waiting for me. He met me at the door with a worried look on his face, his brows furrowed in concern. "Jennifer, did you go to the apartment?" Adam asked, his voice tinged with worry. "Yes, I did," I replied, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and hurt. "I saw everything, Adam. Who are those women? Who are those children?" I felt my heart racing as I spoke, needing answers and feeling desperate. Adam sighed deeply, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "We need to talk, Jennifer. There are things I need to explain." I could sense the weight of his words, but all I could think about was the chaos swirling in my mind and the pain I was feeling. I stood there, waiting for him to explain, my heart pounding as I braced myself for whatever he was about to say. "Explain?" I almost shouted, my voice filled with frustration and hurt. "Explain what, Adam? That you have a whole other life that I didn't know about? That you have other women and children? How could you do this to me? To our kids?" He looked at me with sad eyes, and I could see he was struggling to find the right words. "I didn't want you to find out this way. I never wanted to hurt you," he said softly. "Hurt me?" I scoffed, disbelief flooding through me. "Adam, you've shattered my world. We've been married for 10 years, and we have 2 kids together. And you do this? Why? Just tell me why you thought this was okay." He sighed deeply, and I could see he was thinking hard about how to explain himself. "I've always dreamed of having a large family," he began, his voice barely above a whisper, as if he was afraid to say it out loud. "I wanted a life with multiple wives. But I knew it wasn't accepted here. I thought I could manage it without anyone getting hurt." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt my heart racing, trying to process what he was saying. "Manage it?" I repeated, struggling to understand. "You thought you could just keep this hidden from me and everything would be fine? How could you think that was fair?" He opened his mouth to respond, but I could see the weight of his choices pressing down on him. I was filled with a mix of anger and confusion. All I wanted was clarity, but it felt like I was just getting deeper into a mess I never asked for. I wanted to scream, to cry, but I was stuck trying to find sense in a situation that made no sense at all. "I didn't think it through," Adam admitted, tears starting to well up in his eyes. "I was selfish. I didn't want to lose you, but I wanted this other life too. I thought I could handle it, keep it separate from you and the kids." The reality of his words hit me hard. "And you've been paying for everything with company money," I said, feeling a wave of realization wash over me. "That's how you hid it all. That's why there were no red flags or signs that something was wrong." "Yes," he replied quietly, his gaze dropping to the floor. "I covered all the expenses through the company." I shook my head, overwhelmed with feelings of betrayal. "Adam, how can you expect me to stay after all of this? You've lied to me and to our children. You've broken our family." My voice trembled as I spoke, the weight of his actions pressing down on me. I know I've made a terrible mistake, he said, his voice breaking as he struggled to hold back his tears. But I still love you, Jennifer. I don't want to lose you. Tears streamed down my face as I felt my heart breaking. You already have, Adam. I can't do this. I need to protect our children. I'm taking our son and going home. The finality of my words hit me hard, but I knew I had to stand my ground. At that moment, my mother-in-law and brother-in-law, who had been standing nearby, were visibly shocked by everything they had just heard. They turned to Adam, questioning him about all the revelations. But he couldn't even look them in the eye, his shame written all over his face. I felt a mix of anger and sadness as I watched this unfold, knowing that our family was forever changed. He didn't try to stop me. Deep down, I think he knew there was nothing he could say that would fix what he had broken. As I drove away with our son in the back seat, I felt a confusing mix of sadness and relief wash over me. The man I thought I knew was gone, replaced by a stranger who had secrets too deep for me to forgive. It felt like my whole world had been turned upside down. I kept replaying everything in my mind, from the moments we shared to the love we built together. But now, it all felt like a lie. Once I got home, I knew I had to take the next step. I picked up my phone and contacted a lawyer. I needed to file for divorce and seek full custody of our 2 children. It was a hard decision, but I knew it was necessary. I had to protect our kids and myself from the chaos Adam had created. As I sat there, waiting for the lawyer to call me back, I felt both scared and empowered. I was stepping into a new chapter, even if it was one filled with uncertainty. I realized that I had to be strong for our children and create a safe space for them to grow up, away from the hurt and betrayal. It was time to move forward, even if the road ahead seemed difficult.